They'll only notice when it's too late. When you walk back into the room and no one recognizes you. When the version of you that once begged for attention now walks past their validation like it's worthless. You don't need their applause. You need results. Every man watching this, you've felt it. That sinking feeling like you're being watched, judged, expected to perform. You post one thing and they criticize. You say one dream out loud and they laugh. You succeed a little and they hope you fail. You've been living too loud. You were never meant to live under their microscope. You were never meant to beg for validation from people who don't matter. And every time you open your mouth about your goals, your energy leaks out like a busted pipe. So what do? You vanish. Not because you're weak, but because real power moves in silence. Because you're about to become unrecognizable. This is not a motivational speech. This is the brutal truth every man needs to hear. You are not here to impress. You are here to transform. Not with noise, not with claps, with obsession, with silence, with brutal honesty. And by the time they realize what you've become, you won't even care, because the man you're about to build in the silence doesn't need their applause. He builds, he grows, he conquers. He evolves until he's unrecognizably powerful. Comment below, I evolve in silence, if you're ready to disappear and become someone they can't recognize anymore. Number 1. Starve the ego. You want to transform. Start by recognizing this brutal truth. Nobody cares how much potential you have until you show results, and the quickest way to stay average is to constantly talk about what you're going to do instead of quietly doing it. That's your ego, and it's killing your progress. The ego wants recognition before results, applause without execution, presence without proof. You feel it every time you check your phone for validation, every time you drop your goals into a group chat just to get a reaction, every time you over-explain your plans to people who neither understand you nor care about what you're building. That habit, it leaks power. If you're a man who's serious about disappearing and transforming, your first task isn't grinding at the gym or grinding your business. It's silence. And that silence isn't weakness, it's strength. It's where everything real begins. You don't need the world's permission to work on yourself. You don't need to post about your process. You need to protect your energy from leaking into people and places that haven't earned access. When a man stops oversharing, stops flexing prematurely, and starts operating in a private, powerful state of intent, his entire life changes. But here's where most men struggle. We were raised in a culture that mistakes visibility for success. You're taught that if they don't see it, it doesn't count. That's a lie. The truth is, if they do see it too early, it probably won't count, because you're now working for their opinion, not your evolution. You're now performing, not progressing. You want to know where to start? Start by cutting out one thing: the need to be seen. If you're not where you want to be financially, physically, mentally, stop broadcasting. Stop updating everyone on your new routines, your new ideas, your new plans. Just execute. If you're waking up every day unsure of who you are or where you're going, good. Use that silence to define yourself again, this time without the noise of outside validation. Instead of telling your friends you're hitting the gym, wake up early and go to the gym, because a strong body clears a foggy mind. Instead of announcing a new business idea, lock in a 3-hour window daily where no one hears from you, and in that time, build. Even if it's imperfect, especially if it's imperfect. You don't need more opinions. You need more output. You need more focus. You need more honesty. This journey, it starts in your calendar. Schedule time that no one knows about. Put yourself in isolation, not in a pity party, but in a place of power. If you're working 2 jobs and still can't pay the bills, don't talk about how hard life is. Grind in silence. Build in silence. Stack skills in silence. The silence will teach you things noise never could. It'll show you your habits, your addictions, your real hunger. Most men aren't afraid of being alone. They're afraid of what they'll discover about themselves when there's no one to distract them from their own excuses. That's why disappearing is so powerful. It's not about running from life. It's about finally meeting yourself without filters. So what do? You start with one rule. Every time you feel the urge to post your progress, don't. Channel that energy into doubling your efforts. Every time you want to vent about how unfair things are, journal it instead. Then solve it, not with emotion, with execution. Every time you feel tempted to explain yourself to friends, to family, to strangers, stop and let your future results be the only explanation they'll ever need. The Stoics knew this. They didn't move in silence because it was trendy. They moved in silence because they understood something modern men forget. Peace comes from within, and chaos comes from needing the outside world to validate your existence. You want to disappear and transform? Then you need to make peace with not being praised for a long, long time. You need to fall in love with being overlooked. You need to embrace irrelevance, because in that irrelevance, you are rebuilding your power. One of the most practical things you can do is set hard, private rules. Delete social apps. Stop announcing every goal. Start tracking your time like it's sacred. Build routines that no one sees. Track progress for yourself, not for others, not for stories, just for you. Why? Because when a man starts creating not for applause, but for alignment, that's when his power compounds. That's when the ego dies and the beast wakes up. You'll know it's working when you start caring less about being understood and more about being undeniable. You'll notice your words become fewer, your focus becomes sharper, your mood becomes calmer, because you're no longer in reaction mode, you're in creation mode. That's what starving the ego really means. It means deleting the need to be known so you can focus on becoming someone worth knowing. It means waking up and keeping promises to yourself, whether the world sees it or not. It means working late, eating clean, reading deeply, training hard, and never once needing to post a selfie or a quote to prove you're doing it. Why? Because the proof will show when you walk into a room and your presence speaks louder than your words ever could. Men, listen carefully. The biggest flex isn't your lifestyle, it's your discipline. It's not the car you drive or the apartment you rent. It's how consistent you are when no one's watching. It's whether you follow through when it's boring, when it's inconvenient, when it's lonely. And yes, you will be lonely. You will have nights where the silence feels loud, where you question if any of this even matters. And that's when you double down, because transformation happens in that silence, when you sit alone with your purpose and choose to keep going, even when no one claps, even when no one believes, even when you barely believe. That's how you disappear. And that's how you reappear, a man who doesn't need to prove anything to anyone, because the proof is in who you've become. Starve the ego, feed the fire, build in silence. The world will feel you soon enough, but by then you won't care, because you'll finally be free. Number 2, kill the old you. If you're serious about changing your life, you have to understand this. The version of you that brought you here cannot take you where you're meant to go. And the longer you hold on to him, the longer you delay the life you keep saying you want. The old you, he's not your friend. He's not a memory. He's an anchor. And the only way forward is to bury him without ceremony. Don't mourn him. Replace him. That means no more excuses. No more waiting for motivation. No more next Monday mindset. You kill the old you by refusing to repeat his patterns. You start by looking at your life, brutally and honestly. The routines, the habits, the decisions that made you soft, that kept you broke, that kept you invisible, and you cut them out with precision. That means if the old you woke up late, you wake up early. If he numbed pain with endless scrolling, you delete those apps. If he avoided discomfort, you seek it daily. You destroy that man with discipline. And it won't be easy, because the old you is comfortable. He knows your voice. He uses it to whisper doubt when you're trying to level up. He'll tell you that you're not built for more, that you've failed before, that no one cares. And if you listen, even for a second, he wins. So you respond with action. You ignore the noise and you move. You don't need to feel ready. You just need to begin. And when that voice comes again, when it tells you to skip the workout, to hit snooze, to blow your budget, you answer it with decisions that hurt in the moment but build the man you're becoming. That's how you kill the old you. Not in one dramatic moment, but in 1,000 small choices that slowly, consistently strangle your old identity and feed your future. If you used to gossip, you now stay silent. If you used to waste money, you now budget with military focus. If you used to quit, you now persist, not loudly, not for claps, but because you've made a quiet promise to yourself that you will never return to who you were. And here's where it gets real. The world will still treat you like the old you for a while. Your friends will joke the same way. Your family will expect you to fold the same way. The people in your life who benefit from your weakness won't want you to change. And that's where most men break. They fall back into old identities to fit into old rooms. But if you're really about this life, if you're really trying to disappear and transform, then you accept the cost, solitude, discomfort, and misunderstanding. You let people go. You change your number if you have to. You stop explaining yourself and start showing yourself. You become a man who doesn't beg to be understood. He demands to be respected through action. And it starts with small, brutal commitments. Instead of sleeping in, you rise before the sun and put your phone in another room. Instead of easing into the day, you move with force. You stretch, you sweat, you journal. You reflect not just on what you want, but on who you refuse to be anymore. Instead of mindless entertainment, you consume content that sharpens your mind, books that break your excuses, silence that forces you to face yourself. And when you're tempted to slip, you remind yourself, slipping is how the old you survived. Discipline is how the new you thrives. Think of this like burning the bridge behind you, the bridge back to laziness, to lack, to failure. You burn it with decisions, with routines, with new standards. You don't flirt with who you used to be. You make it impossible to return. That means you set your life up for progress. You create friction for weakness. You uninstall temptation. You schedule your days to protect your mind. You build systems that remove decision fatigue. Because when you kill the old you, you're not just deleting a version of yourself. You're designing the new one. So be detailed, be surgical. Who do you want to become? A man with financial control? Then every dollar has a destination. No impulse buys, no distractions. You study wealth like your life depends on it. You save relentlessly. You create multiple income streams not to flex, but to be free. Want to be physically powerful? Then you lift heavy. You track your nutrition. You don't miss, and you don't complain. Want to be mentally sharp? Then you read when you want to scroll. You think when you want to react. You speak last and listen first. You develop a calm presence that makes others lean in. This is the man you're building, and every day the old one is trying to survive. He survives when you rationalize laziness. He survives when you hang with people who remind you of who you used to be. He survives when you stay kind of committed. You have to go all in. You have to become obsessed. Not with being perfect, but with being better than you were. You don't get to visit the new you on weekends. You move in, you live there, and when the old you knocks, you don't answer. You stay busy building. Stoicism teaches that real strength comes from discipline, from choosing long-term growth over short-term pleasure. That's your edge. You don't need dopamine hits, you need direction. You don't chase comfort, you chase clarity, and you build clarity by eliminating chaos. That means fewer distractions, tighter routines, and more silence. It means saying no, a lot. No to parties, no to gossip, no to energy drainers, and yes to the grind that no one sees. Yes to the work that doesn't pay off today but builds a life tomorrow. Yes to becoming a man you admire. Because let's be real, too many men walk around with shame for the things they've allowed, for the time they've wasted, for the promises they've broken to themselves. That shame only leaves when action replaces it. You don't need a second chance. You need a decision, one decision, that today you'll do something the old you never could. Stay consistent. That today you'll make your transformation real, not by talking about it, but by proving it with choices. You want a new life? Then build a new man. And that starts by killing the one who couldn't handle the dream. That man had his time. Now it's yours. Number 3, progress is for you, not them. You want to know why most men never change. It's not because they don't have goals. It's because they need everyone else to clap for them while they're building, and the second no one is watching, they quit. And that's exactly why your progress can never belong to them. It has to be yours and yours alone, or it will never last. You have to make your transformation something so personal, so intimate, that even if the world forgot your name, you would keep going. Because the moment you turn your growth into performance, you've already lost. You stop growing for you and start performing for them. And the second they don't respond how you want, you start second-guessing everything. That's not progress. That's dependency. And dependency is weakness in disguise. If you're still addicted to showing off your grind, you're not building, you're broadcasting. And broadcasting progress kills real evolution because it's built on validation, not on vision. Think about this. Every time you post that gym mirror selfie, you're not just sharing a moment. You're exchanging internal confidence for external attention, and that's a bad trade. Every time you drop another, "I'm working on something big" into a conversation, hoping to impress people who don't care, you're leaking the energy that should be fueling the work. So stop. Stop giving people access to your progress who haven't earned the right to witness it. Start building in silence. Not because you're hiding, but because you're becoming. And becoming doesn't need an audience. It needs a commitment. You want to disappear and transform? Then go ghost with your progress. Lock it away. Guard it. Make it sacred. Your new routines, your new mindset, your early mornings, your books, your reps, your goals. They are not for display. They are not to be shared with people who will never understand what it cost you to even get started. You do not need applause for waking up early. You do not need praise for staying consistent. You need to look in the mirror and know that you showed up because the man you're becoming doesn't tolerate anything less. And when it gets hard, when the growth gets boring, slow, painful, that's when you double down. That's when you remind yourself that this isn't about optics. This isn't about letting the world know you're trying. This is about becoming undeniable in silence, so when the results show up, they speak louder than you ever could. That's the moment the game changes. That's the moment you go from trying to becoming. Real progress happens in hidden reps. It happens in skipped parties and cancelled plans. It happens when you're broke and still invest in that course. When you're tired and still do the hard thing. When you're unsure and still choose discipline. The world doesn't see that part, but that's the part that matters most. That's the foundation. That's where the real story is written. And if you're still relying on others to motivate you, to cheer you on, you'll never tap into what's truly possible for you. You have to become your own fuel, your own fire, your own standard. And you start by asking yourself the hard questions. Am I doing this for me? Or am I doing this so they notice? Am I building this life because it aligns with my values or because it looks good online? Am I proud of what I'm building even if no one else ever sees it? That's the test. Because if you wouldn't do it in the dark, you don't deserve it in the light. This is what Stoicism teaches us, not to be emotionless, but to be unshakable, to be driven by inner truth, not external noise, to move with clarity, not with chaos. And if you want to live that way, you have to stop giving your progress away. Guard it like your future depends on it, because it does. So what do you do practically? You build invisible systems. You track your wins privately. You measure progress by your own metrics, not likes, not compliments, not recognition. You build a plan that no one knows about and execute it like your life depends on it. You create a spreadsheet where you measure your sleep, your training, your finances, not to show off, but to sharpen. You wake up early not to brag, but because it sets the tone for your day. You go to the gym, not to post a transformation photo, but because strength makes you more disciplined in every other area of life. You start eating clean because foggy thinking comes from bad food. You start reading because wisdom compounds, and one powerful idea could change your direction. You cut people off who can't see where you're going because their doubt is louder than your self-belief. You disappear not out of fear, but out of focus. Because you're no longer living for exposure, you're living for expansion. And the man who expands in silence becomes the man who commands without speaking. So ignore the claps, ignore the silence, ignore the people watching, and especially ignore the people who stopped watching. This isn't their journey, it's yours. Progress isn't a performance, it's a practice. And your job now is to practice being better than the man you were yesterday, not for credit, not for praise, but for peace. Peace that comes from knowing you didn't fold, you didn't fake, you didn't flaunt. You just did the work. You became the man. And when that version of you finally steps into the light, the world won't know what hit it, but you will. Because you built it brick by brick when no one was watching. Number 4. Reappear without needing applause. You want to know when the real shift happens? It's not when you hit the goal, and it's not when the money starts flowing, or when the weight is gone, or when the room goes quiet because your presence now commands something different. The real shift happens when you stop needing any of it to feel complete. And that's when you know you've truly disappeared and rebuilt the man who couldn't stand on his own 2 feet without someone clapping for him first. Because the version of you that's been forged in silence doesn't just walk back into the world with results. He walks in with peace. And that peace is louder than any round of applause ever could be. And it can't be bought, borrowed, or faked, because it only comes from doing the work that no one saw, and staying consistent when no one cared, and still choosing to get better when it felt like no one even noticed you existed. And that's when you become something else entirely. Not someone who needs to be seen, but someone who can't be ignored even if he wanted to be. Not because he's screaming louder, but because he's moved so differently for so long that now every step he takes is calculated, every decision is aligned, and every room he walks into shifts without him even opening his mouth. Because when a man stops trying to prove himself, he finally becomes someone worth watching. But here's what most men get wrong. They reappear too soon. They peek their head out when they start to feel the first signs of change. And they want the world to say, well done. They want a few likes, a few compliments, a little validation to carry them into the next phase. And that's where they fold, because when you come back looking for applause, you've already let the old you back in the door, the one who couldn't do anything unless someone noticed, the one who needed a response to stay consistent, but not you, not anymore. Because if you've really disappeared the right way, you won't need the claps anymore. You won't need the attention, the recognition, the praise, because the man you've become doesn't move for noise. He moves for peace, for principle, for alignment, and he knows the truth, that what's built in silence speaks in silence. And when you reappear, it's not to show them, it's to live freely without apology, and that freedom only comes from mastery, from detachment, from knowing exactly who you are and no longer requiring the world to echo it back to you just to feel certain. And that's a rare kind of power, a quiet power, the kind that isn't flashy, but is felt in every word, every choice, every action, and it shows up in the smallest things. How you sit in a room, how you say no without explaining yourself, how you hold your commitments without posting them, how you protect your energy without feeling guilty for it, how you show up to the gym, to work, to life, without needing someone to say, "Good job," because you already know you're walking in integrity. And when that becomes your normal, everything changes, because now you don't need applause to validate your grind. You don't need praise to believe in your progress. You don't need anyone to see you doing the work, because you've already seen what happens when you do it in silence. Results that speak louder than words, confidence that doesn't ask for permission, and strength that isn't loud but is unshakable. And here's how you get there. You finish what you started, not because you promised the world, but because you promised yourself. And every single day you wake up and keep that promise. You become a little more of who you said you'd be, and a little less of who you used to be. And one day you'll realize you haven't needed approval in months. You haven't looked for compliments. You haven't cared if they noticed, because you've been too busy building, too focused on alignment, too committed to your own standards. And when that moment hits, when you walk into a room and the energy shifts but you don't say a word, that's the payoff, not the applause, but the awareness that you've truly become a man who doesn't just talk about peace. He walks in it, because peace comes from being the man you said you'd be when no one was watching, when no one clapped, when it was just you and the goal and the hard decisions and the early mornings and the quiet nights and the moments you could have folded but didn't. And that's what reappearing without needing applause really means. It means stepping into your new life, not to prove them wrong or make them notice, but because it's who you are now, it's what you do now, it's how you live now, and whether they notice or not doesn't matter, because you're not here to be seen, you're here to be real, to be whole, to be the version of you that you used to doubt was even possible. And now you're living it, not for them, but for you. And that's enough. That's more than enough, because the applause that matters most isn't loud. It's silent. It's internal. It's you waking up every day knowing you didn't fold, you didn't fake it, you didn't need the claps. You just became undeniable. If you've made it this far, it's because something inside you refuses to stay the same. And maybe for the first time in your life, you're finally ready to stop pretending, stop performing, and start building the man you know you were meant to be. And it's not going to be easy, but you already know that, because comfort has never changed you. Comfort has only made you quieter, smaller, weaker. But discomfort, discipline, and the silence you're stepping into now, that's where the fire is. That's where you'll be refined, and no one has to believe in you right now, because your belief is enough, your pain is enough, your purpose is enough. And I need you to hold on to that, especially on the days when no one sees your effort, when the grind feels heavy, when the results are slow, because those are the days that build the real you, the days that test what kind of man you actually are, the days that reveal whether you were serious or just interested. And if you're serious, I want you to make this decision with everything in you, that from this moment forward, you will not fold, you will not fake it, and you will not go back. You will build in silence, You will kill the old you. You will protect your progress like your future depends on it. And when you reappear, you will not ask for applause. You will walk with quiet power because you earned it in the dark, and no one can take that from you. And if you feel this in your bones, if this hit you deeper than motivation ever could, then I want you to go to the comments and type, "I'm becoming undeniable." Let it be your vow, your declaration, your starting line. And if this message moved something in you, if it gave you clarity, direction, fire, then support this channel, not for me, but because there are millions of men out there still in the dark, still stuck in cycles of silence and shame, still performing instead of progressing. And the only way we reach them is if men like you help carry the message further. So like this video, comment below, and subscribe. Not for me, but for you, for the men who need this truth, for the man you're becoming. Because when we support what speaks to our soul, we feed the transformation that can change our lives. And when we rise together, one silent, disciplined, powerful man at a time.